Hey, what's up guys, Creepy Produce here, and welcome to my video where today I'm going to be talking about a problem Mario Kart Wii has had since its launch, and that problem is the Thundercloud. This item is exclusive to Mario Kart Wii and is the most hated item in the Mario Kart community. This item basically gives you a very small speed boost and you have a small amount of time to bump another player to pass it on. Whoever is holding the Thundercloud gets shocked, losing a ton of speed and time. However, here's the problem. It's nearly impossible to actually pass the cloud once you get it. Now against CPUs it may be easier because they're not trying to avoid you, but players are a whole different story, especially online. First off, when people have a Thundercloud, it sends an alert to nearby players, and since the punishment is so brutal, people near the Thundercloud holder are going to get out of their way just to not get bumped. Even with the speed boost, it's so hard to catch up to someone because players will always move in unpredictable lines to make it harder for you to bump into them. And a kart Thundercloud holder trying to give it to a bike user, all the bike has to do is wheelie away. Sometimes even when you do bump someone online, it will show on your screen that you bumped them, but it won't on their screen, which means you technically didn't pass the Thundercloud. So sometimes you're not even sure where the other racers really are, which makes it even harder to pass it. Honestly, I think this item would work better in battle mode, where players are way more interactive, but Nintendo didn't think so. Personally, I would prefer this item never comes back, but if they did want to re-include it, I would definitely want a rework. For those of you that have the CCGP mod, there is actually a change to the Thundercloud that's an option, which turns you into a Mega instead of shrinking you, which is very fun because it's basically a delayed Mega Mushroom where you get a speed boost the entire time before. This isn't very practical, however, because it's kind of OP and defeats the whole purpose of the item, which is supposed to be a punishing item. Even if the Thunderclouds are more fun this way. I like the idea of items that hurt you in Mario Kart. It adds a whole new layer of strategy. However, the Thundercloud just wasn't done right. So today I'm going to be giving 5 ways they could fix the Thundercloud for future Mario Kart games. My first idea to fix the Thundercloud is simply to make it last much longer. If the timer was increased for the Thundercloud, it could make the punishment less brutal. When you obtain a Thundercloud, you have a very short time span to actually pass the cloud, and then you get shocked, so it's just a shock that basically just hits you. However, with more time, this gives the player more time to catch up to another player. Additionally, this gives more time to take shortcuts and use this really use the speed boost to its full potential, which can be used to cancel out time loss. So if the shock does inevitably hit them, they don't lose as much time. This could really help on places like N64 Mario Raceway, where you can just cut so much grass in certain places. So even if you do get shocked, you saved a lot of time anyway. This item could really be fun because you could be able to play the game much differently by driving off-road for long periods of time and cutting big chunks of tracks to save loads of time. Alright, so the second idea is to increase the speed of the Thundercloud. You don't go that much faster when you're in a Thundercloud than when you don't have one, so if someone is ahead of you, it can just seem like you're barely gaining any time on them. So one thing they should really do is increase the speed of your vehicle when you get a Thundercloud, so you can catch up to these people much easier. It would also make the punishment not as harsh if you got shocked because you covered more distance than you would have normally. A possibility could be making you go normal speed off-road, but a nice speed boost when you're like on-road, like a better one. This could make the Thundercloud a lot more skill-based by forcing you to drive much better at a higher speed, like 200cc almost. This would make it easier to bump somebody who's far ahead of you. Another idea is to make the shock not so dramatic from a Thundercloud. There are multiple ways to go about this. Instead of making the shock identical to a normal shock, you just make it like a mini shock that only shrinks you for about 3 seconds. This is still punishing because you're going to be losing time overall, and you're going to lose any item that you may have. But they could also make the shock so it doesn't actually spin you out, and it just makes you small so you don't have to waste time accelerating again or charging a mini turbo. Although this probably won't help much, it's just that little extra thing that might make the Thundercloud a little less frustrating to get. Alright, so this next idea is probably the one I would prefer the most, and that's to make the item obtainable in the higher spots only. In a 12-player race online, you can obtain a Thundercloud if you're somewhere in the span of 3rd through 8th place. This is bad because if you're somewhere in 6th, 7th, or 8th place, you're already not doing great, and a Thundercloud is just going to add to the pain. A solution to this is to change the spots in which you obtain the item. I would propose that the item only be obtainable in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place, because this is how punishing items should work. They should punish the people in the front, not the middle. This would solve multiple problems. First off, players who obtain the Thundercloud in 1st place would probably slow down to hit 2nd, forfeiting their lead, and overall helping the pack get more together, especially if second place tries to pass it to someone else. Also, since first place would know that there is a risk to pulling the Thundercloud, they may not purposely collect any item boxes, which means they wouldn't be laying traps everywhere, which would increase their lead. And finally, if first got a Thundercloud and got shocked, they would lose their lead and end up somewhere in the middle of the pack, which is how a punishing item should work. Again, the item should hurt the people in the front, not the middle. I wouldn't want this to be common, however, because it still would be a frustrating item to get. I would say just a 3% chance for third, 5% for second, and 7% for first. The item shouldn't appear too often, but there should still be a risk, and maybe it should appear about once or twice a race. The last idea to fix the Thundercloud is to make your hitbox bigger when you obtain it. Instead of needing to bump people to pass it, maybe just getting near them should be enough, especially online when it's frustrating to bump someone, but the game lagged so it didn't count. This would be less of a problem if all you had to do was get within a certain distance of somebody. This would overall make the Thundercloud easier to pass, so opponents would be more challenged and have to take weirder lines just to get out of the range of the Thundercloud. And this also should turn the Thundercloud passing into more of a hot potato type situation, where they're passing it back and forth more often instead of the holder just giving it to someone and they're pretty much stuck with it, or they're just holding it themselves the whole time. Anyways, what did you think of my suggestions? Most of you probably don't even play Mario Kart Wii anymore, but it's a game I'm still passionate about, and this is the biggest problem I think there is with the game. Honestly, I hope we never see a resurface of this item, but you never know with Nintendo. Anyway guys, thanks for watching my little discussion video about the item, and enjoy the rest of your day.